strike, and the score!
And McClellan, he could go. Burst of speed.
The header, another goal's in!
Heisman Memorial Trophy, Bryce Young.
A shot with the right foot, 3-1, Crimson Tide.
We talked about Alabama. Alabama is still Alabama.
Roll Tide and welcome to the Crimson Tide Productions studio inside Bryant-Denny Stadium for another episode of TideTV This Week. I'm Roger Hoover, joined by my co-host Kenzie Hughes. And Kenzie, guess what? We have more Alabama wins to talk about.
Oh, here we go. Between soccer, football, this week, last week, there's a lot going on. And we're going to start with Alabama's first conference road game of the season as the Crimson Tide took on the Arkansas Razorbacks this past Saturday in Fayetteville in front of, get this, 75,579 people, the largest crowd in Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium.
Certainly was the loudest place Alabama has played this season, and the Crimson Tide jumped out to an early lead. On the Crimson Tide's second drive of the game, Bryce Young hooked up with true freshman Kobe Prentice for 47 yards for the first score of the game and the first touchdown of Prentice's career. He then capped off Alabama's next drive with this 8-yard touchdown run to give the Crimson Tide the 14-0 lead early. Unfortunately, midway through the second quarter, Young suffered a shoulder injury and did not return to the game.
Jalen Milroe came into the game and led the Tide to 14 more second quarter points. He scored his first rushing touchdown on a 3-yard score to make it 21-0, then connected with JoJo Earl, who was seeing his first action of the season, as this 22-yard reception was the first touchdown for Earl in his career. Arkansas tacked on a touchdown with 21 seconds left as the Tide led the Razorbacks 28-7 at the half.
After Arkansas scored a couple of touchdowns and a field goal in the third quarter, the Crimson Tide found themselves only up 5 at 28-23 going into the fourth quarter. Then the game turned on just one play. Facing 3rd and 15 from the Tide's own 20, Milroe surveys the field and completely took off. Down the middle of the field, cut it to the sideline, and he was gone all the way down to the 3-yard line. Jason McClellan punched it in to give Crimson Tide the 35-23 lead.
Jameer Gibbs added the double exclamation points to the Crimson Tide's win as he had touchdown runs of, get this, 72 and 76 yards to close out the game. How fast is this man? Too fast. He gets up to 22.8 miles per hour on that 72-yard touchdown run. That's just not fair. It looks like he's running the 40 out the gate. Those huge runs helped the Tide win big in their first SEC road game of the year over 19th-ranked Arkansas Razorbacks 49-26.
Really proud of the way our players competed in the game. We had too many penalties. So there's a lot to learn. But, you know, it's also an SEC road game against a good team. And I was proud of the way our guys completed. I thought we come out and played great in the beginning of the game. And we got ahead 28-0. I thought our players competed, played well on defense, played well on offense, got off the field on third down. That's one of the things that we didn't do when they started coming back a little bit, is had a couple third down opportunities where we didn't get off the field and they kept possession of the ball, and you know that led to scores. But the kicking game errors, the onside kick, the bad snap on punt, I mean, you know, kicking game helped us when we had a couple big-time punt returns, but it actually hurt us, you know, later in the game. But those were really our errors, you know, our errors. So they're all fixable, and they're things that we look forward to getting better at.
And for his 206 yards and 2 touchdown performance, running back Jameer Gibbs was named the SEC Offensive Player of the Week. Gibbs had explosive touchdown runs of 72 and 76 yards in the fourth quarter to put the game out of reach for the Crimson Tide. Gibbs also added 2 receptions for 20 yards to equal a team-high 226 all-purpose yards.
Coach Saban and the coaching staff named their Players of the Week this week. Gibbs, along with offensive linemen Seth McLaughlin and Tyler Steen, were selected on offense. Defensive lineman Jaheim Otis and defensive backs DeMarco Helms and Kool-Aid McKinstry were selected on defense.
McKinstry was also selected on special teams along with Demoy Kennedy and Quandarius Robinson.
And the Crimson Tide are number 1 once again, Roger. Alabama took the top spot in the Associated Press Top 25 this week after an impressive win over the 19th-ranked Arkansas Razorbacks. And Georgia's come from behind 26-22 win over Missouri. Georgia has 3 more first-place votes, but the Tide has 2 more total points than the Bulldogs to take the number 1 spot in the AP poll.
And the coaches have Alabama as their number 1 team as well. The Tide had a much larger lead in the AFCA Coaches Top 25 with 34 first-place votes to Georgia's 23. And the Tide also has a 23-point cushion over the second-place Bulldogs. Before we take a look at our Crimson Tide and the NFL Players of the Week, let's take an all-access look at the Tide's 49-26 win over the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Alabama's off to a 4-0 start. Today they meet in front of a packed house of 76,000, all wearing red. 15 straight wins for Alabama over Arkansas, leading the all-time series 25-7. Young slant, got his man on the fly. Kobe Prentice, you can say goodbye. Touchdown, Alabama.
Big up in the pocket, looking deep. He's got a man all alone. Catch made, trips down inside the 10. Isaiah Bond making the grab. Play action, keeps himself, fakes the pitch, walks into the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama. And it is Alabama's football.
The big question mark is about the Heisman Trophy winner.
We talked to Coach Saban about the backup quarterback if something bad happened. And he said Jalen runs the whole offense, but a little more of the Jalen Hurts stuff.
Handoff, no, keeper, Milroe, touchdown Alabama. Jalen Milroe. They swing it near side to Earl. He's got room, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, JoJo Earl.
Second down and 10. Collision in the backfield, and Will Anderson says hello. Touchdown, Arkansas. And it's an onside kick, and his kicker recovered it. He gets the touchdown.
What a turn of events.
Milroe will step up. He will run it. He will get to the 25, 30, 35, 40. First down. Still on his feet. Foot race. Milroe. What a play. Jalen Milroe. Milroe hands it off. Whoops into the end zone. Touchdown. Chase McClellan.
Jahmyr Gibbs. Big opening up the middle. Nobody's going to catch Jahmyr Gibbs.
Once again to midfield. Once again beyond. And once again to the end zone.
AJ Green to carry. Team 3.
9-26 win was Alabama's 15th win in a row over Arkansas as the Tide improved to 5-0 and also 2-0 in conference play.
That's right, and we now have a time for next week's matchup against the 8th-ranked Tennessee Volunteers.
Alabama's matchup with Tennessee in Knoxville, known as the third Saturday in October, will kick off at 2:30 Central. It'll be Alabama's third game in a row on CBS. The Tide has a long streak over the Vols as well. Alabama has defeated Tennessee 15 games in a row as the Crimson Tide have dominated the Vols. Only 2 of those 15 wins have been less than double digits, an incredible streak for the Crimson Tide, Kenzie.
Absolutely, and Roger, that's by far the longest win streak in the third Saturday in October series. And anytime you can beat your rival 15 in a row, I think we'll take that, right? That's pretty impressive.
It's definitely impressive. Speaking of impressive, let's take a look at the Crimson Tide and the NFL Players of the Week. And we start off with a couple of former Crimson Tide running backs.
Derrick Henry rushed for 144 yards in the Titans' win over the Colts. Henry averaged over 5 yards per carry with a touchdown, and King Henry also became only the 4th player in Titans and Oilers history to rush for over 7,000 yards, joining Eddie George, Earl Campbell, and Chris Johnson.
Another Alabama running back, Josh Jacobs, had a monster game for the Raiders. Jacobs also rushed for 144 yards. Jacobs also averaged over 5 yards per carry as he finished with 2 rushing touchdowns. Jacobs is currently 5th in the NFL in rushing yards with 336 yards.
Defensive lineman Jonathan Allen was a force in the Commanders game against the Cowboys. Allen finished with 8 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and a sack. Allen also had a quarterback hurry and a pass deflection.
And Eddie Jackson had another interception this week. Jackson also finished with 9 tackles and a pass breakup in the Bears' matchup with the New York Football Giants.
Minkah Fitzpatrick also had a big game. Fitzpatrick had an interception that he returned for 34 yards in the Steelers' matchup with the Jets. He also finished with 8 tackles and 2 pass breakups.
And a special shout out as well to Trayvon Diggs and Marlon Humphrey, who both had interceptions this week.
That's right. And in all seriousness, our thoughts and prayers are with Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, who was injured for the second consecutive game. Tua's having such a great year, but we hope that he's going to be okay, and we definitely wish him a speedy recovery.
Well, the Crimson Tide soccer team is off to their best start in program history. We'll have the highlights from the Tide's SEC road win over Georgia, and also hear from the team on their historic start to the season. That and more coming up next.
TideTV This Week is presented by the University of Alabama, where legends are made. Ford, for great offers on F-150, see your local Ford dealer. Proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide.
The lights of Tuscaloosa. What a finish we're in store for.
If you're looking to visit this stadium. They got it figured out here.
It's more than a buzz at Bryant-Denny Stadium. It's electric. Here comes the Tide.
Welcome back to Tide TV This Week. September was a historic month for the Alabama soccer program. The Tide went undefeated with 8 wins and 1 tie. The program also reached their highest ranking in program history.
West Hart's squad closed out the month with a road match against the Georgia Bulldogs in Athens.
On her first touch of the night, guess who? Riley Tanner fired a shot from outside the box that went up and over the goalkeeper's head into the back corner of the net for the score in the 19th minute. 1-0 Crimson Tide. And Roger, no surprise here for the second goal. Felicia Knox with a great corner kick for the assist as Ashlyn Sarepka headed it into the net for Bama's second goal of the match.
Georgia got on the board by an own goal by the Crimson Tide, but ultimately wouldn't matter as Alabama remained undefeated in the SEC with a 2-1 win over the Georgia Bulldogs.
We've been tested in a variety of different ways, and we've responded to each one of those tests. So, it's awesome to see. The confidence right now is at an all-time high. I've never seen a team with this much confidence and belief, and rightfully so. It's not a false confidence. As I mentioned, we've been tested, and we've passed those tests.
The win over the Dogs was the Crimson Tide's 7th consecutive win to improve to 11-1-1 and remain undefeated in SEC play at 4-0.
And with that big road win, the Tide continued to climb up in the rankings. Alabama once again made history as the Tide reached their highest ranking in program history once again. Alabama moved up to number 4 in this week's United Soccer Coaches Top 25 poll and in Top Drawer's Top 25 rankings as well.
We'll recap the 4th-ranked matchup against the Crimson Tide and LSU on next week's show.
There's also a big showdown this Saturday night in Tuscaloosa.
That's right. The number 1-ranked Crimson Tide will host the Texas A&M Aggies under the lights in Bryant-Denny Stadium. We'll have a preview of this SEC West showdown coming up next.
Tide TV This Week is presented by Ford. For great offers on F-150, see your local Ford dealer. Proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide. The University of Alabama, where legends are made.
There's a formula for success. It takes practice, persistence, and an unwavering drive. Together, our aspirations become reality. Every triumph has its origin story. Ours begin right here. The University of Alabama, where legends are made.
Welcome back to Tide TV This Week. After a trip to Fayetteville for their first SEC road matchup of the season, Alabama will be at home this weekend as the Tide hosts Texas A&M.
That's right, and for a preview of this week's matchup between the Crimson Tide and the Aggies, our Christopher England joins us now.
It's an SEC West showdown under the lights inside Bryant-Denny Stadium on Saturday night. Number 1 Alabama takes on Texas A&M. The Aggies won last year's matchup in College Station, but the Tide leads the overall series 11-3, including a 5-1 record in Tuscaloosa. The Crimson Tide dominated the Aggies 52-24 in the last matchup in Tuscaloosa back in 2020. Coach Saban is 8-2 all-time against the Aggies, with all 10 of those matchups as head coach of the Crimson Tide. Jimbo Fisher is 1-4 against the Tide. His lone win was last season's 41-38 win in College Station. There's been a lot of talk during the offseason about this matchup between Alabama and Texas A&M, but when the players step on the field on Saturday, none of that will matter.
I come here to play football. You know, I don't come here to write tweets. I don't come here to go back and forth, you know, on the thing. You know, people may try to, you know, make it a big thing, but at the end of the day, I have a scholarship to play football. Coach Saban brought me here to play football. He brought us all here to play football, and that's our job to go out there and make sure that we're being our best versions of ourselves on the field and make sure that we're playing up to the Alabama standard.
Texas A&M enters the contest 3-2. The Aggies were upset in week 2 of the college football season by Appalachian State. The difference in the game was this 29-yard field goal with 8 minutes to go in the fourth as App State upset then 6th-ranked Texas A&M 17-14. Texas A&M's other loss was to Mississippi State this past weekend. The Bulldogs jumped out to a 21-3 lead on their way to a 42-24 victory over the Aggies. Texas A&M is last in the SEC in total offense and scoring, averaging 21 points per game. Haynes King began the season as the Aggies starting quarterback, but Max Johnson took over after the loss to Appalachian State. However, Johnson suffered an injury to his throwing hand and the Aggies lost to Mississippi State last week, allowing King to finish out the game. Just like the Tide, who the starting quarterback will be on Saturday for the Aggies, is still up in the air. Despite their offensive struggles, one bright spot for Texas A&M has been the play of Devon Achane. The junior running back leads the SEC and is 3rd in the nation in all-purpose yards with 166 per game. Achane is also 3rd in the conference in rushing at 93 yards per game.
He's very elusive. He's got great speed. You know, he's got a burst, and the guy's really a good player and good receiver, good runner. He's good all-around player.
Achane may lead the SEC in all-purpose yards, but he will be facing the top defense in the Southeastern Conference. Alabama leads the SEC in pass and rush defense, allowing just 2 1/3 yards per rushing attempt. The Texas A&M defense has forced 5 fumbles on the year and is 6th in the SEC in scoring defense, allowing just 17.8 points per game. The Aggies have a veteran secondary with 5 players having double-digit career starts, but their Achilles heel has been their run defense. Texas A&M is 97th in the nation, allowing over 170 yards per game. It's a good matchup for the reigning SEC Offensive Player of the Week, as Jahmyr Gibbs totaled 206 yards on just 18 carries in last week's win over Arkansas. Special teams will be fun to watch on Saturday night. Alabama has the nation's leading punt returner in Kool-Aid McKinstry with 321 yards, while Texas A&M's Devon Achane is 4th in the nation in kickoff returns, averaging over 34 yards per return. Kickoff between number 1 ranked Crimson Tide and the Aggies will be at 7 o'clock. You can watch the game live on CBS. Stay with us. We'll have more Tide TV this week coming up next.
The lights of Tuscaloosa. What a finish we're in store for.
If you're looking to visit this stadium. They got it figured out here.
It's more than a buzz at Bryant-Denny Stadium. It's electric. Here comes the Tide.
Welcome back. The Crimson Tide volleyball team was on the road this past Saturday as the Tide took on the 18th-ranked Kentucky in Lexington.
Alabama dropped the first 2 sets but battled back to win set 3, 25-19. However, the Wildcats took control of the match in set 4, winning 25-13 for the 3-1 win. Volleyball heads to Oxford this weekend for a couple of matches against the Ole Miss Rebels on Friday and Saturday.
The Alabama men's tennis team was at home this past weekend for the Alabama 4 in the fall tournament. The Tide's Joao Ferreira and Zach Foster won the tournament championship, winning the doubles match and both singles matches on the final day of competition.
Keisha Petak led the Alabama women's tennis team in the Alabama 4 in the fall with a couple of singles wins in the tournament. The men and the women both have been competing at several of the ITA All-American Championships this week.
The Alabama men's and women's swimming and diving teams picked up a couple of wins to open the season. The men defeated Delta State 186-101, and just like in football, the women took on Arkansas. The women picked up a big SEC victory in their season opener with a 161-139 win over the Razorbacks. Ryan White was named the SEC Women's Swimmer of the Week.
And Victor Kiprop was named the National Athlete of the Week by the United States Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association for his first place finish at the prestigious Joe Piane Invitational in South Bend, Indiana.
Victor was also named the SEC Men's Runner of the Week. Hilda Olamomoy was also named the Women's Freshman Runner of the Week as she finished third overall in the race. Both the men and women's teams finished third, and the women move up to 6th, and the men are 22nd in the week's rankings.
And the Alabama rowing team picked up 5 wins in their season opener at the head of the Oklahoma. The Crimson Tide will be back in action on October 29th here in Tuscaloosa for the head of the Black Warrior River.
Don't go anywhere. We'll have our plays and players of the week coming up next in just about 90 seconds.
Somebody stop me, I'm on a groove.
There you see the Crimson Tide ready to go.
Go.
Campbell down in Alabama. There's Jacobs.
Taken by Layla Smith.
Down and Alabama's back on top. Blocked by Jacobs. And blocked for
Alabama, they needed service reference.
Are you kidding me? Ray. And a point for Alabama on a long rally.
Move.
It's not over.
For now. Beardsley can't make the save, and Alabama is on the board. Here's Bama with another crack, and the Crimson Tide extend.
Into one, just got it off. Young slant, got his man on the fly. Kobe Prentice, you can say goodbye. Touchdown, Alabama.
Milroe will step up. He will run it. He will get to the 25-30. Still on his feet. Foot race. One man to beat. He gets into the end zone. No.
Jahmyr Gibbs, big opening up the middle, and he is going to be gone. Nobody's going to catch Jahmyr Gibbs all the way to the end zone.
Once ago, again go to Gibbs, and once again he's in a foot race, and once again to the end zone. Jahmyr Gibbs, touchdown, Alabama.
Welcome back to Tide TV This Week. Those were our ATI Plays of the Week. Now, let's take a look at the Players of the Week that are brought to you by Legacy of Hope. And this week's winners dominated the SEC Weekly Honors.
They certainly did, starting with Jahmyr Gibbs. He was named the SEC Offensive Player of the Week as he put the game on ice for the Crimson Tide with 2 70-plus yard touchdowns in the fourth quarter of Alabama's win over Arkansas. Gibbs finished with 206 yards rushing and 226 all-purpose yards.
And Victor Kiprop was named the SEC Men's Runner of the Week as well as the U.S. Track and Field National Athlete of the Week as he took first place with a 23:16.5 over a 5-mile course at the Joe Piane Invitational.
And last but not least, Ryan White was named the SEC Women's Swimmer of the Week. White won a trio of events in the win over Arkansas, also broke 2 Arkansas natatorium records. So big congratulations to our Legacy of Hope Players of the Week, and of course, we hope to see you next week as well.
That's right, Roger. We got a whole lot of winning going on here. Can't wait to see what next week brings. So be sure to check back in next week for another episode of Tide TV This Week.
Have a great weekend, everyone. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
This has been a presentation from Learfield,